Just want to say I am more fearful than ever after this briefing that we may be putting boots on the ground and that troops from the United States may be necessary to accomplish objectives that the administration seems to have, but I also am no more clear on what the priorities are going to be of the administration going forward, whether it is destroying the nuclear capacity of Iran or simply the missiles or regime change or stopping terrorist activities. And I think the administration owes it to the American people to have briefings not just for members of Congress but for the American public.
Greetings everyone and welcome back to my channel. As we continue to watch the events that are unfolding in the Middle East with the war on Iran, I wanted us to talk about World War III, but specifically with regards to the questions that's being asked by many on perhaps social media or on YouTube and many other video sharing platforms with regards to this question about whether this war with Iran will result in World War III. So that's the specific question that I'm going to try and answer in this video, but obviously I'll be touching on maybe other issues directly connected to World War III and whether we are seeing the beginnings of World War III and whether this war will escalate and will involve many other countries that are not involved at the moment, such as China and Russia. So in discussing whether we're seeing the beginnings of World War III, we need to also be asking the question, who is the enemy? Who is the enemy in World War III? Of course, the media and the powers that shouldn't be would have us believe that Iran is the enemy at this very moment. But I think I mentioned this in my last video where I spoke about the real reasons for the war with Iran, that we can't believe anything that the politicians or the government say or the media, because they lie every day pretty much. I can rattle off many lies that they've told. I'm old enough to remember many things that have been said in the past and many things that I've read from history in which they've lied, but I think I addressed that in my last video. So we need to understand who the enemy is, and then we won't be deceived. Remember that Christ warned us 4 times in Matthew 24 about deception, and I read many texts about the issue of deception last time in my video. So here I have a slide of a book called The Limits to Growth, in which we read about how the Club of Rome, which is one of many think tanks or front organizations that are used by the Catholic Church, to get us to focus on these organizations and so that we can be distracted from who is really running the world or orchestrating major events around the world. Other front organizations are organizations like the Bilderbergers and the World Economic Forum are often referred to as the WEF. But here we have the Club of Rome, and it's interesting you have the word Rome in there, which kind of is a clue as to who is really behind all this unnecessary human suffering and stripping of our God-given human rights that is taking place and has been taking place for decades now. So here, this is a book, like I said, called The Limits to Growth, and I think you can actually get it for free as a PDF online. It says in this book anyway, in searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. All these dangers, of course, will be caused by human intervention that will require a global response. So you see, they're blaming human beings for causing all these issues, such as pollution. They initially called it global warming. Now they're calling it climate change because they realize that the temperatures are actually not going up. I'm sure many of you have seen the the very harsh winters that some countries have had, such as in Russia and in America. There have been some very harsh winters, very heavy snow. So they're now calling it climate change. Um, and then all the issue of water shortages. They're saying all these issues are caused by human beings, basically. So if we go to the next slide, it says this is from once again from the Club of Rome. It says the common enemy. Remember, I'm trying to show you, or we're discussing who the enemy is in World War III. It says here that the common enemy of humanity is man. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. So I read some of it. Some of this is similar to what I've read already. But if you look at the last sentence in red, it says the real enemy then is humanity itself. And here we have some front pages from Time magazines, one from 1971, 1973, 1979, which shows that there'll be a big freeze. And then from 1987, 2001 to 2006, they said that the Earth was going to start warming up. So they can't even make up their minds. Climate change, of course, is a farce. It's all about introducing laws that will restrict human freedoms. Because the end goal is the enslavement of humanity, of those that will remain, because the main goal is to reduce human population. But yeah, I'll show you some of that as we go along. Here we have Julian Huxley, who was the brother of Aldous Huxley, who he said the human race will be the cancer of the planet. Now I can't remember if it was Julian Huxley or Aldous Huxley. He also wrote a book called it's just the title escapes me at the moment. I'll get back to it if I remember it. But we have the late Prince Philip, who said, in the event that I am reincarnated, I would like to return as a deadly virus in order to contribute something to solve overpopulation. And the late Henry Kissinger said depopulation should be the highest priority of foreign policy towards the third world. And Ted Turner, who founded CNN, which is obviously a propaganda media outlet, he said overpopulation is the cause of drive-by shootings and other social ills, but the root of the problem is Christianity, which posits that people are more important than sea otters and elephants. So Ted Turner, who I believe is still living, believes that animals are more important than human beings, or have more value than human beings. He also said a total population of 250 to 300 million people, a 95% decline from present levels would be ideal. And David Rockefeller said the negative impact of population growth on all our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident. And here we have a quote from Boris Johnson, former Prime Minister of the UK. He said the world's population is now 6.7 billion. This is from 2007. But I don't actually believe any of these figures that were given about human population. I think these are just numbers that are plucked from the air, and I think they might actually be way overestimated to make it look like the world is overpopulated, which obviously fits in with the narrative that they're trying to sell us. But he says this population of 6.7 billion, roughly double what it was when I was born. If I live to be in my mid-80s, then it will have trebled in my lifetime. I simply cannot understand why no one discusses this impending calamity, and why no world statesmen have the guts to treat the issue with the seriousness it deserves. We seem to have given up on population control. And, that was in 2007. We also have an article here from Times newspaper that says kids are cute, but they are not really eco-friendly. So we see that the war is against human beings and their ability to reproduce and multiply. If you go to the book of Genesis, God said many times, "Go forth and multiply," or not just in the book of Genesis, but in other parts of the scriptures. And of course, anything that God says, the devil is going to be against, and he'll try and do the opposite of exactly what God says. And yet, this is just a slide of, I think it was a plaque next to the Georgia Guidestones. Of course, the Georgia Guidestones have since been destroyed. Someone put a bomb on them and blew them up, and they were removed. I think this was around. This happened around when we were still having the scamdemic. But for those maybe who never heard of the Georgia Guidestones, or maybe those who've forgotten, the Georgia Guidestones, I think, were they were basically boulders that had what were referred to as 10 Commandments, but not 10 Commandments as in God's 10 Commandments. These were 10 Commandments, when the first one being the aim to reduce human population. And I can't remember what they said the ideal population should be on the earth, but it was, I think it was something like 500 million, if my memory serves me right. Yeah, I'm still trying to think of what the book by Aldous Huxley was called. Brave New World, that's it. Brave New World just came to me. It was called Brave New World. And what tends to happen with some of these books, such as Brave New World and 1984, which was written by George Orwell, they are not just novels. They are actually used as blueprints. You find that some of what is happening today is actually based on some of these books. I also wanted to share something else with you about the issue of depopulation. So here we have the person you see in the photo there is a man called Jacques Attali. Now, Jacques Attali is a member of the Bilderberg Group, sometimes referred to as the Bilderbergers, which I mentioned earlier, is one of the front organizations that it's kind of like on the front lines, if I can call it that, and then the Catholic Church and the Jesuits take a step back and pretend like they are not the ones pulling the strings. So Jacques Attali, anyway, is a member of the Bilderbergers, and he wrote a book called Verbatim. And in that book, it says here that it shows the elite's mindset. I would say, out of everything I'm going to read here, the most important sentence is the very first one that's underlined. Okay, it starts here by saying, "The future will be about finding a way to reduce the population." Yeah. You can read that again if you want to. I was about to repeat it, but you can read that yourselves if you want to. It goes on to say, "Of course, we will not be able to execute people or build camps. We get rid of them by making them believe it is for their own good. We will find or cause something, a pandemic targeting certain people, a real economic crisis or not, a virus affecting the old or the elderly. It doesn't matter. The weak and the fearful will succumb to it. The stupid will believe in it." And every time I read this sentence, I always remember what happened during this pandemic, that 80% of the world believed that there was a virus floating around, and they took a poison dart because they were fearful of something that they actually a threat. They were fearful of a threat that they actually hadn't been proved to exist, and a threat that they couldn't see. They only saw something on TV. And by the way, the video that made many people fearful was the video of that Chinese man that fell, was shown falling. But if you go back and look for that video and look very carefully, you find that that man actually braced his fall by putting his hands out, and he braced his fall with one of his knees, I think. And it turned out afterwards that that man was actually a Chinese actor. So, which is why I always say we should listen to what God says. Ask God first what He wants you to do before you jump on the bandwagon and conform to the world, contrary to what Romans chapter 12 verse 1 and 2 says. Anyway, this quote says, it's going on from, just repeating maybe some of what I read earlier. The stupid will believe in it and ask to be treated. That's exactly what happened during this pandemic, because there was actually nothing. You might be hearing this for the first time, but there was actually nothing. There was no pandemic. It was all propaganda to get people to be fearful and take the Pope, basically. And of course, as you've seen so far from what I've read, there were two main reasons for the Pope. One of the main reasons was the Depop agenda, and the second one was to get nanorobots into human beings so that they could be integrated into the Internet of Things. Okay. But I've addressed that in some of my other videos. I won't be going into too much detail about that. But those were the two main reasons. And of course, some of the poison does also sterilize. They don't necessarily kill, but they can also sterilize you and stop you from having children. It goes on to say here, we will have taken care of having panned the treatment, a treatment that will be the solution. The selection of idiots will therefore be done by itself. They will go to the slaughterhouse alone. Now, the other reason, I think I've covered enough information with regards to who the enemy is in World War III. And of course, maybe I should just end by saying, so the question that many podcasters and others are trying to address is whether this war with Iran will lead to World War III. But we've actually been in World War III for decades now, because as you can see, World War III is about reducing human population. Of course, there's the issue of resources, which I'll get to. But if you look at this article here, or these articles here, it says that the late Pope Francis. Now I won't read everything here. It says this was around 2014. I think this was said. We'll look at the other articles as well. In fact, we have one here, I think, from 2022. It says here, Pope Francis has consistently warned that the world is already experiencing a third world war fought piecemeal. Now, this word here, piecemeal, actually means slowly or bit by bit. So World War III started decades ago, but it's been kind of going on slowly. It says here a concept he has reiterated since 2014. So I think this is trying to say that this is the first time he said that a third world war was being fought piecemeal. He describes this ongoing conflict not as a single unified war, but as a series of interconnected regional wars, violence and humanitarian crises occurring simultaneously across the globe. Of course, I don't believe in the globe. I'm just reading what's in front of me. I believe that God created the earth as a flat disk. And if you go to Genesis 1 verse 6, you find that we don't live on a globe. This is, of course, the whole heliocentric globe. Earth is a fiction and was created by the Catholic Church and the Jesuits to undermine faith in God's word. Let's just read what it says here anyway, before we move on to the issue of the second reason why why wars are fought in the first place, because wars are actually fought as a means of also depopulating the earth. So what does it say here? So I was just looking for where it says that we're already in World War III. In fact, let me read this here. It says, it actually says here in the heading, Pope says we are living through World War III. This was in, I'm looking for a date here, but I can't see a date. You see that this is actually written by Jesuits, SJ. If you see the initials SJ behind someone's name, it means Society of Jesus, which is the official English title of the Jesuits. Okay, the Jesuits. The word Jesus is actually meant to be derogatory, but the Society of Jesus actually embraced that title. The ones who came up with the word Jesus were actually Protestants. Okay. It says here, Pope Francis prays for Ukraine and recalls the 83rd anniversary of the Second World War during the weekly general audience, noting that ongoing conflicts throughout the globe constitute a third world war. Of course, those who are behind wars are the Jesuits themselves. Let me just read something for you here. This is from this is to do with the extreme oath of the Jesuits that's taken by it says here a Jesuit of the minor rank. So I won't read the whole thing. You can look for it for yourself. In fact, if you get a book called Rulers of Evil, I think I have it open here. No, I think I closed it. But anyway, in a book called Rulers of Evil, which is I'd say it's in the top. I think it's my third favorite book that I've read. I think I've actually read it twice. But the extreme oath of the Jesuits is in there as well. But if you look for that oath online, you'll find it as well. So here it says, when a Jesuit of the minor rank is to be elevated to command, he is conducted into the chapel of the convent of the order. Remember, I'm reading this to show you that it's actually the Jesuits who are actually behind all the wars that are going on around the world, and they have been since their establishment in 1540 or they were officially recognized by Pope Paul III. But of course, the Jesuits started. Ignatius Loyola, who's the founder of the Jesuits, actually started to gather Jesuits together, started the order in around 1534, but they were officially recognized by the Catholic Church and officially recognized in 1540. Okay, let me just say it that way. So yeah, when a Jesuit of the minor rank is to be elevated to command, he is conducted into the chapel of the convent of the order, where there are only 3 others present: the principal or superior standing in front of the altar. On either side stands a monk, one of whom holds a banner of yellow and white. Of course, yellow and white are the official colors of the papacy, which are the papal colors, like it says here. And the other, a black banner with a dagger and a red cross above, a skull and crossbones with the word INRI, and below them the words, is it Istam Neca Regis Impius, the meaning of which is, it is just to exterminate or annihilate impious or heretical kings, governments, or rulers. And sometimes you see paintings of so-called Jesus being crucified with the words INRI above his head. This is actually a message from the Jesuits to say it is just to exterminate or annihilate impious or heretical kings, governments, or rulers. Upon the floor is a red cross at which the postulant or candidate kneels. The superior hands him a small black crucifix, which he takes in his left hand and presses to his heart. And the superior at the same time presents to him a dagger, which he grasps by the blade and holds the point against his heart, the superior still holding it by the hilt, and thus addresses the postulant. Okay, the superior then says, so-called superior, only superior should be Jesus Christ, and not a pastor or an elder or anyone here on this earth. My son, heretofore you have been taught to act the dissembler among Roman Catholics, to be a Roman Catholic, and to be a spy even among your own brethren, to believe no man, to trust no man, among the reformers, to be a reformer, among the Huguenots, these are French Protestants who were massacred. 70,000 of them were massacred during the Saint Bartholomew's massacre. I think that was in 1572. So among Huguenots, this is the Jesuits, should be Huguenots. Among the Huguenots, among the Calvinists, to be a Calvinist, among other Protestants, generally to be a Protestant, obtaining their confidence to seek, even to preach from their pulpits, and to denounce with all the vehemence in your nature our holy religion and the Pope, and even to descend so low as to become a Jew among Jews, that you might be enabled to gather together all information for the benefit of your order as a faithful soldier of the Pope. So for those who say that the Jesuits or the Jews are the ones ruling the world, you see here it says that Jesuits should even infiltrate Jews, to pretend to be Jews. And of course, the Jews that are in Israel today are not biblical Jews. They are from Ukraine, which used to be called Khazaria. Okay, and of course they are being allowed to bring about what is called Greater Israel. So of course right now, today, Israel is mostly here in this, I don't know if you can see this faint red line here in the map. What they want is to occupy this whole region here, in which they'll take territory from Egypt here, as you can see, on the other side of the Red Sea, take territory from, take over the whole of Jordan, take over parts of Iraq, parts of Syria, and of course encroach slightly into the border of Iran here, and kind of explains why Iran and Israel don't get along, because they see each other as a threat. But this is part of the reason why some of these wars are taking place. But of course, the Jews are not the ones who are running the world, and they are not the ones they are not the ones who are decided, who made the decision to attack Iran. They are just spokes in the wheel. Okay, as I've read here, the Jesuits will pretend to be Jews. Okay, and yeah, there's something else I need to show you. Let me show you. There's a chart which I've actually done a video on this chart before. But yeah, if you look here, this chart shows who is really ruling the world, and of course it's the Jesuits who are deciding everything, including this war with Iran, and their main goal is to protect the interests, especially the financial interests of the Vatican, which is shown here at the top, and the papal bloodlines, the black nobility. Black nobility does not mean these are not black families; these are white families that from Europe that have got connections to the Roman Empire. Okay, some of these families used to be senators in the old Roman Empire. As you can see, the Zionism, the Jews or the Rothschilds, they're down here. Okay, they are not the ones pulling the strings. They're not the ones making the final decision. They are just being used as puppets. Okay, yeah. Now if we go back here, we're just reading the extreme oath. We're not going to read the actual oath. We're just reading what I just want to show you that it's actually the Jesuits that are behind the war with Iran. There's a particular sentence that I want to read here, but yeah, it says, yeah, and even descend so low as to become a Jew among Jews, that you might be enabled to gather together all information for the benefit of your order as a faithful soldier of the Pope. You have been taught to insidiously plant the seeds of jealousy and hatred between communities, provinces, states that were at peace. You see that? Even countries and provinces that were at peace, they plant the seeds of jealousy and hatred and incite them to deeds of blood, involving them with war with each other. You see that? start wars between countries that were at peace with each other, and to create revolutions and civil wars in countries that were independent and prosperous, cultivating the arts and the sciences and enjoying the blessings of peace, to take sides with the combatants and to act secretly with your Jesuit brother who might be engaged on the other side. So you can have Jesuits in Iran and Jesuits in Israel starting war, pretending like they hate each other, yet the enemy is humanity. But openly opposed to that with which you might be connected, only that the church, which church is this? It's the Roman Catholic Church. So that everything that is done in these wars and in these conflicts, that the church might be the gainer in the end. That's the sentence I was looking for, that the Roman Catholic Church might be the gainer in the end, in the conditions fixed in the treaties. So whatever treaties, peace treaties that are signed. So for instance, once this war ends, that's going on in the Middle East, let's say a peace treaty is signed, that treaty is supposed to be favorable to the Roman Catholic Church. So in the conditions fixed in the treaties for peace, and that the end justifies the means. So they will infiltrate all organizations and all churches here, Protestants and heretics, and what follows afterwards is the actual oath that's taken by the Jesuits. Here we read that it's Jesuits of the minor rank that take this oath. So their part starts here. They'll say I, and then they'll mention their name, now in the presence of Almighty God. And then here they'll take an oath to fight all enemies of the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church, whether they be Lutherans of Germany, Holland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, England, Scotland, all enemies, those who are deemed to be enemies in the Church of England, Scotland, the Calvinists, Huguenots. Remember I read about Huguenots earlier, Protestants or liberals, to be damnable. Yeah. Everyone who opposes the Catholic Church is deemed as an enemy. Yeah. So I think I've read enough there. But the other reason why wars are fought, yes, we've mentioned depopulation and how humanity is the enemy. The other reason why wars are fought is for resources. And there was a man called Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was from Poland but was also an American citizen, and he was an advisor to many presidents or to many administrations in America. I think he passed away in 2017, if I remember correctly. Yeah, died on the 26th of May, 2017. Now, Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote a best-selling book called The Grand Chessboard. I actually have this book. Not the easiest book to read, but I'll just summarize it for you in a minute. So in this book, basically what I'm going to read the highlighted text here, just as a summary of what the book says. It says, best-selling author and former national security advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski offers a bold new global vision for extending American preeminence in the 21st century. As the 20th century draws to a close, the United States has emerged as the world's only superpower. No other nation possesses comparable military and economic power or has interests that bestride the globe. You see, they keep using that word globe because that's kind of trying to reinforce this indoctrination that we live on a globe that's just spinning in space. But yeah, that's not the point. Yet the critical question facing America remains unanswered. What should be the nation's global strategy for maintaining its exceptional position in the world. Zbigniew Brzezinski tackles this question head-on in this incisive and path-breaking book. As the 20th century draws to a close, the United States has emerged as the world's only superpower. No other nation possesses. I think this is repeating itself. Yet the critical question facing America remains unanswered. What should be the nation's global strategy for maintaining? I think this kind of the text is repeating itself for some reason. The grand chessboard presents Brzezinski's bold and provocative geostrategic vision for American preeminence in the 21st century. Central to his analysis is the exercise of power on the Eurasian landmass, which is home to the greatest part of the Earth's population, natural resources, and economic activity. So, says here the home of the Earth's population. So most of the Earth's population is in this landmass, which he calls Eurasia. In that landmass, there's a lot of natural resources and economic activity. Stretching from Portugal to the Bering Strait, from Lapland to Malaysia, Eurasia is the grand chessboard on which America's supremacy will be ratified and challenged in the years to come. The task facing the United States, he argues, is to manage the conflicts and relationships in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. You see that? So that no rival superpower arises to threaten our interest or our well-being. So not only is this war being fought over resources and, of course, depopulation, but they also don't want any country or nation continent to come up as a rival to the United States. They want the United States to be the only superpower. The heart of the grand chessboard is Brzezinski's analysis of the four critical regions of Eurasia and of the stakes for America in each arena: Europe, Russia, Central Asia, and East Asia. So once again, remember that I said some of these books are actually used as a blueprint. So I believe that this book is also being used by different American governments as a guide for how to maintain control over other countries. And of course, America is mentioned in prophecy in Revelation chapter 13. I think it's from verses 11 onwards, and it talks about how America uses deception to fool not only its own citizens but people around the world in different countries. When he talks about deception and miracles, he's talking about how, I believe he's talking about these false flag events such as 9/11, in which it is claimed that Osama bin Laden, who was once again, I'll say it again, Osama bin Laden was a CIA agent whose CIA name was Tim Osman. They said that he orchestrated the events that happened on 9/11, which led to America attacking Afghanistan, Iraq, and those other countries that have been attacked since 9/11, such as Syria, because the excuse after that was that they were fighting, America was fighting terrorism in those countries, fighting Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Yet ISIS and Al-Qaeda were actually created by the CIA and Mossad, okay? So, yeah, I showed you a video last time of retired General Wesley Clark, where we said that one of the generals at the Pentagon showed him a memo saying that Iran would be the last country on the list. Not necessarily that Iran is the very last country to go to war with the United States, but yeah, it will be the last country to be attacked on that list that this general had at the Pentagon after the events on 9/11, which were orchestrated by America and Israel through Mossad. Okay, just want to make sure that I've shared everything with you here that I want to share. Let me just show you this here, because so these are politicians. Yeah, these are different politicians. I hope you can see that clearly. I hope that shows up clearly on your as you're watching. So remember that chart that I showed you here? You see how political parties are at the very bottom here. Political parties slash NGOs, and it says remaining organizations that form the economic and social system. So when we fight over politics and when we go to vote for a political party, we are what we're doing is we're fighting over small fish here at the bottom. The real issues, the real controllers of those who are ruling the world are at the top here, and we are down here. They want us to remain down here. They don't want us to know that all this is going on at the top of the hierarchy. So why I'm showing you this is because there are some who, thought that especially this is mainly for Americans, but this applies to every other country. There are two main political parties. I know that there are some politicians who run as independents. For instance, RFK Jr. initially ran as an independent, but then joined the Republicans under Trump. But normally, there's normally an exchange of power, if you can call it that, between the Republicans and the Democrats. So here, this is just showing. It says every country the U.S. has attacked in the 21st century, and which presidents authorized the strikes. So Afghanistan has been attacked by George Bush Jr., Obama, Joe Biden, and Trump. And of course, I don't believe that the Joe Biden who was president was the real Joe Biden. I believe the real Joe Biden died some years ago. I believe that was either someone wearing a mask or a clone. As some conspiracy theories say, but he's different. That definitely wasn't Joe Biden, regardless of what you believe, whether he was someone wearing a mask or not. But because the CIA has got very advanced mask technology, there's actually a video or some videos on YouTube that show that the CIA have technology to produce masks that make someone look like they're someone else. Okay, so the only president who has authorized an attack on Iran is President Trump. And don't forget that Trump actually promised that he would not start a war with any country. But of course, even in his first term, Trump attacked Syria. He blew up some planes and some other military infrastructure in Syria, but didn't go. I was about to say it wasn't a full-blown war, but of course the American troops actually occupied a third of Syria and have occupied a third of Syria. I think they might have gone in when Obama was still there. But yeah, Trump is the only one that's authorized a strike or war with Iran. And of course now they're saying that this thing with Iran is not a war. These are just strikes, they're not war. Trying to redefine what war is. And then we have Iraq was attacked when George Bush Jr. was there, continued to be attacked by Obama. Some of this is mostly through drone strikes, and of course by this fake Joe Biden and Trump. Libya was attacked by Obama and Trump. I've just remembered something that happened when I was in the police in the UK. It must have been in 2008 when Obama was selected as president. There was this Jamaican lady. She wasn't a police officer. I was a police officer at the time, but this lady was just a member of staff. I think she used to do a lot of typing for the police. She used to do we used to call them briefings, the slideshows that we used to look at before we'd go out on the streets or in our cars to police whatever areas we were supposed to be policing. We used to look at slides to find out who was wanted and what was going on in our area. And this lady, I think, was the one who used to prepare the slides. When Obama got selected, she said to me, because I think we were the only two blacks who were working in that office. This was in a place called Basingstoke in southern England. She said to me anyway, she said, "Did you watch Obama's inauguration last night?" And the inauguration happened quite late, actually, for UK time. It happened quite late. But she said to me, "Did you watch Obama's inauguration?" And I said, "No, I didn't." She said to me, "Oh, I can't remember exact words, but it was something that was supposed to make me look like I'd made a mistake, and why didn't I watch the inauguration? And there were other staff members there. There were white staff members who were listening to our conversation. She was like, "Oh, that's why didn't you watch the inauguration?" I said to her, "I've read my history. Obama is not going to change anything." And for sure, Obama, I think, is, if I remember correctly, he dropped more bombs in these Middle Eastern countries more than any other president, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't really matter who you vote for. These political parties are like two sides of the same coin. Okay, so we covered Iraq. Libya was attacked by Obama and Trump. Nigeria, Trump bombed Nigeria a few months ago. Pakistan has been bombed by George Bush Jr., Obama, and Trump. So Trump is just everywhere. Somalia has been bombed by these four presidents: Bush Jr., Obama, Biden, so-called Biden, and Trump. Syria, Obama, Biden, and Trump. Venezuela, Trump, and of course they kidnapped Nicolas Maduro. Yemen has been bombed by Bush Jr., Obama, Biden, and Trump. So it doesn't really matter who you vote for. Voting doesn't make a difference. It's actually been said if voting made a difference, it wouldn't be allowed. Okay, so yeah, I think that's all I wanted to share. But maybe we can just finish by going to Revelation 13. There was something else I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you this book, Zbigniew Brzezinski's book, actually, just to show what it looks like. But the book is called The Grand Chessboard. It's just I'm a bit far away from Starlink, so it can be a bit slow sometimes. But let's just go here. Let's go to eSword and read Revelation 13, verse 11. It's talking about America. So remember how I said, and at the moment I'm doing a series of videos going through the book of Revelation verse by verse. I think at the moment I'm still moving on to Revelation chapter 7. So when he talks about in prophecy, when he talks about a beast, it's basically talking about a kingdom. So here we see in Revelation 13 verse 1 a beast coming out of the sea. The sea refers to a heavily populated area. Okay, how do we know that? Because if we go to Revelation 17 verse 5, remember, sea or water represents a heavily populated area. Sorry, that's not it. Where does it mention? Let me type it and see if it will come up. Revelation. Oh, I'd said it's Revelation 17 verse 5, but it's actually verse 15, same chapter. So remember we're dealing with the sea that's mentioned in Revelation 13. Let's push this to the side. Revelation 13 verse 1, beast is a kingdom, and the sea or water represents a heavily populated area. So here it says in Revelation 17 verse 15, and he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, the whore that's mentioned in Revelation 17, it says the water represents peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Okay, so this beast that comes out of the sea basically represents a kingdom that comes up in a heavily populated area, in contrast to the second beast that's mentioned in the same chapter, kind of the second part of the chapter. It says a beast coming up out of the earth. So the earth would be the opposite of the sea. It's a place that's not heavily populated. So it had two horns like a lamb. A lamb is an innocent animal, innocent, but it says, or appears to be innocent, but it spoke as a dragon. Okay, so America pretends to be innocent, always claiming that it's being attacked, yet those are deceptions and false miracles. In fact, let's see here. See here, verse 14. In fact, starting with verse 13, and he doeth great wonders. Okay, in verse 14, and deceives them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles. These are false miracles. These are deceptions, such as false flag attacks, which America then uses as an excuse to attack other countries. Yeah, so that's what. So America is being used as the papacy's army to attack other countries. And if you remember in the oath, it says that the conditions that are set after these wars take place should benefit the Catholic Church, okay, especially the peace treaties that are signed. So this is Zbigniew Brzezinski's book, The Grand Chessboard. I think it sometimes can have different pictures, but that's the book. If you want to get it, you can get it, but you might be able to get it as a PDF. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share with you today. I hope this has been helpful to you, for you to understand what's actually going on. We can't trust what the media says or what any government says, because they never tell the truth. So yeah, hopefully that helps you to explain, to understand what's going on. And also, we should also prepare ourselves. There was something that actually on today's Friday, the 6th of March. 2 days ago, I was coming from a town called Mutare, which is the nearest big town to us, where we do our shopping. And when we were coming from there, I wanted to buy a bit of petrol, and not for my car, but because my car runs on diesel. But I wanted to buy a bit of petrol. And the service station that I pulled into, they refused to sell us petrol because they said that there's an organization, a government agency called ZERA here in Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe Energy Regulatory Agency or something. They had told all the service stations to stop selling fuel because they wanted to come up with new fuel prices, of which the next day, which was yesterday, my wife told me that the fuel prices had gone up a bit, whereas before, I think petrol and diesel were roughly around $1.59, because here we're still using US dollars, by the way, $1.59, but now I think they've gone up to about $1.71 per liter. Fuel is sold per liter here in Zimbabwe. So fuel prices are going up, and it's obviously as a result of what's going on in the Middle East. So what I wanted to say is just always be prepared. Be prepared. Make sure you've got fuel in your car in case there's an emergency. For instance, if you need to go to hospital or rush out to get something, make sure you've got fuel, and make sure you've got food in the house as well, because this issue will continue to escalate. And I'll end by showing you a video of Keir Starmer, who is the Crime Minister, and I haven't misspoken. He's the Crime Minister of the UK. He said that the UK's position with regards to the war in Iran had changed, because Iran initially they were not going to get involved, but now because Iran has attacked their allies, UK was going to join the war. And also he said that the war might actually go on for longer than was expected. So yeah, so thanks for watching the video. Hopefully it was helpful to you, and I'll see you on the next one.
The long-standing British position is that the best way forward for the regime and the world is a negotiated settlement with Iran where they give up their nuclear ambitions. Now, that's why I took the decision that the UK would not join the initial strikes on Iran by the US and Israel. Now, that decision was deliberate. It was in the national interest, and I stand by it. But when Iran started attacking countries around the Gulf and the wider region, the situation changed. Iran has now fired drones and missiles at 10 countries that did not attack them. These are allies of the UK, where we have hundreds of thousands of British people, as well as British military personnel. Our number one priority is protecting our people. Forces who protect them come from all backgrounds too. We are united by our common humanity and our love of this country. This conflict could continue for some time. So I want you to know that your government is resolute in our response, at home and abroad. We will do everything we can to protect British lives, uphold British values, and safeguard the national interest.